Hey guys, Dave here. Today I'm going to try to answer a question of my friend Srinivasan. He wanted to know how to create a rig for a rope. So after doing some tests, this is what I came up with. Okay, first of all, let's create the rope itself. Go ahead and create a simple polygon cube. Now in the inputs, let's change the subdivision height to 50. Then let's select the faces. Let's go to face selection mode, select the upper face, and shift select the lower face. Okay, now shift left click extrude face. Okay, let's click out. Let's go back to object mode, select that, go to mesh smooth. Let's go to the checkbox and just be sure that you have it on reset settings, smooth, and we have something like this. Cool. Okay, now we need to set up the length. So as I had with 50 subdivisions height, I'm gonna make the height also 50. If you want it longer, for example, I don't know, 80, have this 80 on the prior step and this one 80 and so on. But for this example, I'll do it with 50. Okay, now let's go here to a top view. Let's create a cool rope. I could just go on with this one, but let's make it cooler. Let's go here, press 4. Let's come in D. Let's duplicate this geometry, set it right here, duplicate it again, put it here in the center, and up. There we go. Now let's select all of them, go to Mesh, Combine. Now let's center the pivot, modify, center pivot. Let's press the snapping tool for the grid. Let's snap it right there. Okay. Now, let's select the whole geometry and let's go to our perspective view here, perspective. There we go. Let's add a deformer. Let's go here to the formations and add twist. Okay, here in the twist, start angle. I want to twist it, and also the end angle the other way around. So I get something like this. It looks like a rope. Cool. Now, let's delete the history. Let's go here to delete by type history, and again modify freeze transformations so the object's clean. Very good. Now let's add the joints. Let's go here to front view. Let's go all the way to the top. Press 4, go to animation, the joint tool. Now you want to have this snap tool to the grid pressed again, so it'll follow the grid. Now press shift and keep pressing it and just hold it and go down, pressing all the way through the rope. If you see, it doesn't really matter where you press as long as it's near the grid. If you have the snapping tool, that's pretty awesome. And if you have the shift pressed also, it'll keep straight down. So let's keep on doing that until we get to the very bottom of the rope. Okay, now that we're set, let's press enter. Okay, now let's bring out outliner and rename. Let's say rename this one to rope underscore geo. And the joints, you could rename them, but as you can see, there's a lot of them, so I'm not gonna do it. Just gonna leave it like that. Okay, now I'm gonna select this one right here. Oh, the prior group you saw I deleted was from another test, so don't pay attention to that. We're going to group them again. So Command G, we have them grouped. Now let's call this rope anim. Okay. Very good. Now we need to bind the joints to the geometry, right? But before we do that, let's duplicate this group. Okay, I'll tell you why later. Okay, now let's create this one in a new layer. Let's name it rope 1. Okay. Let's rename it here, rope 1 anim. Or you could do it the other way around. Okay, let's put here below. There we go. Okay, rope 1. We select this and let's just move it somewhere right here. Okay, rope 1. Okay, there we go. And rope 2. Okay, rope 2. Let's rename this layer. Rope 2. Okay. Okay, so let's work with rope 2 right now. Now, as I was saying, we need to bind the geometry to the joints. So on rope 2, the outliner, select both geometry and the joints. And go here to skin, bind skin, smooth skin. There we go. Cool. Let's put this aside. Now, what we're going to do is, in order to move the joints or the whole rope, we're going to add a cool feature that's called the IK Spline Handle Tool. Sorry about the pronunciation. Okay, IK Spline Handle Tool. So let's open up this tools settings right here. And you're going to leave this root on curve, outer parent curve, outer create curve, and outer simply curve. You could, if you uncheck this, you could create manually the curve and tell where the vertices are going to be, but in order to make it simpler, just leave it like this. Also, leave the root twist mode, and this is the twist type. Right now it's set to linear, but you could change it later on in the attributes, either to is in, is out, or both. Okay, leave it like this. Now, let's bring out our outliner. Okay, let's double click here on the tool so we get this. Where is it? Okay. Okay, there we go. We have this cross over here. Okay, now here in the outliner, let's select the joints. Let's select the first joint. Now, if you press with Shift and then the plus sign, you'll open up all the joints that are below. So we first select the first one and we scroll down until we find the last one. Press Command or Control, joint 51, and it's created an effector and it's created an IK handle. Okay, cool. Now, we need to move the vertices that have been created inside this curve. Okay, so in order to do that, we're going to select this curve and we're going to go here to, let me close this. Okay, we select the curve in the outliner, then go to Edit Curves. Oh, let me bring out the menu up here so you guys can see it. Edit Curves, here, Selection. Oh, again, let's see. Edit Curves, Selection. Okay, here, Cluster Curve. Okay, so now we can see the clusters. We go to a perspective. Okay, and you have the clusters over here. See, now these ones, if you move them, see what happens. Cool, huh? Now, these are the ones you can animate. Okay, so we have our clusters over here. Now, let's bring this down. Here we go. Okay, so we got our clusters ready. Now what we need to do is finish organizing everything inside the outliner, create our controller curves, and have our rig ready. So let's go ahead. Okay, in the outliner, select the clusters and the IK handle. Let's come and G group that. Let's call it IK handle clusters, or whatever convention you might like. Let's drag this group inside the rope 2 anim. Okay, so we have it like this. Now, what we're going to do is create the selection curve. So let's create a simple curve. Let's scale that out somewhere here. Let's rename this to cluster 1. Okay. Now, if you open up this IK handle clusters group, you'll see that we have 7 cluster handles, and we're just going to duplicate the cluster curves until we have the same number. So we have 7 and 7. Now, I want to snap them precisely to the corresponding cluster. So in order to do that, I'm going to aid myself using the point constraint. So first, we're going to grab the cluster 1 handle, select the cluster 1 curve, go to constraint, point. Now, it's important that you delete this after you have snapped it in the place you want, because we don't need the point constraint anymore. So let's go ahead and do the same with the other ones. Point. Okay. 3. Okay, I'll just press G because it repeats the last action in Maya. Okay, 4, G, 5, G, 6, G, 7, G. There we go. Okay, cool. Now, we have to parent constrain the other way around. So we want the drivers to be the curves and the drivens the cluster handles. So we select the cluster 1 and then come and select the cluster 1 handle and go here. Oh, this is very important. Before we do this, we need to freeze the transformations for all of the curves. So we have in our channel box everything set to 0, because right now, if you guys see, we have the Y different in every curve, right? So select all of them, go to modify, freeze transformations. Okay, there we go. Now we can start parent constraining. So select the driver, the driven, constraint, parent constraint. And let's go with the G key. Okay. Okay, 5, G. 6, G, and 7, G. There we go. So if you guys see in your channel box, you'll see that everything's zeroed out. And if we test it, okay, this one's working. Let's undo, 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 undo. Okay. Okay, cool. Okay. Now, let's select our clusters, curves, and drag them inside the IK handle clusters group. Okay, so everything's inside this over here. Okay. Now, what we want to do is select our curve and then select the group, IK handle clusters, and create a parent constraint. So whenever we move this curve, everything else moves along. Now we need a master controller for this curve. This is the last thing we do. We go ahead and create another one. Let's scale that out. And I'll place it right on the top where the first joint is. There we go. Okay. Now, again, let's modify and freeze transformations. Let's change this name to master control. There we go. Okay. Now let's select the master control, command select the curve and parent. Okay. So if we move this around, okay, undo. If we rotate it around, everything moves along. Okay. Now the scaling, it won't work with the scaling. You know that brakes won't scale very good. But well, at least we can move it and rotate it. That's something, right? Okay. Now let's select both the master control and this rope 2 anim group. Let's group it again. Let's call it rope 2 rig. So this is the final one. Okay. Okay guys, so you remember that we made a first rope in the beginning, right? Let's hide rope 2, bring out rope 1. And rope 1, I can delete the joints right now. I won't need them for what I'm going to do right now. Even more, let's get this out of the group. Let's delete the group. And we have here the geometry. Okay, so I'm going to create right now an object that I'm going to pull. Let's say it'll be a sphere or something. Again, you can model it out the way you need to. Okay, let's go here to the front. Let's put it right here. Okay, now I'll select the rope, add a bend deformer. Okay, let's put here 4. Let's close here. Let's select this one, scale it down. Something like that. Okay. Okay, I'll grab my rope geometry, get my perspective, and delete. In the edit, delete by type the history, so I get rid of the deformer. Okay, and let's center pivot, modify center pivot. Okay. Okay. Let's grab both 2 of them. Let's go here to the top view. And have this okay, it's right in the center. Okay, grab both of them, modify freeze transformations so everything is zeroed. Okay, perfect. Perspective. Now I'm going to grab both of them, I'm going to group them, I'm going to create another curve. Okay, I'll call this object control. Okay, I'll modify and freeze transformations. Okay. Okay, now I'm gonna select this one, then the group, the parent constraint. Here we go. Select both of them, group them again. Object rig. Okay. Okay. I guess I can rename this one to object. Okay, save. Let's select here the object rig and just add it. There we go. Now both of them are on view. Okay, now I can select my object and just move it. Oh, let me get the snap off. Okay, I'll move it. Okay, maybe I can move it over here. Put it over here. Rotate. Let's move it right here. Oh. Yeah, you might want it to snap it to the end of the rope, not at the beginning. So let's have this way down. Here we go. Okay. Something like that. Let's press 4. Again, the knot, you could do it as you want. You can model it out. I just found this solution. Quick one. Okay. So what we're going to do is find this last joint. Okay? We select that joint. Then we're going to select, shift select the rig and parent constraint. It's important that you do it to the last joint, okay? So what happens now? Say if I grab my, there we go. Let's rotate it to 90 degrees. Oh, 0. It's 90. There we go. Say we have something like that. And now if we start pulling or tweaking these, see what happens. It's moving along. So there you go. You can attach whatever you want to the last joint, and there's your rope, and there's something you have attached to the rope. And well, that was my solution. I hope, Sri, it helped. And thanks again, guys, for tuning in to this crazy tutorials. I hope you learned something. And please, if you have any more questions, don't be afraid to send a message to my PR or workspace.